What's happening, everybody? Jim Lair joining you live from Nicaragua. Just let me get Instagram going here real quick. We have Instagram. Let me make sure everything's in order. I hope you guys are doing well today. It's a beautiful day here. I'm actually a little late. I was surprised. I thought I had scheduled this for 4 o'clock my time, which would be 5 o'clock, but I didn't. I scheduled it for 3:30, 4:30 Eastern, and so I'm late. My apologies. Had a great morning this morning. You can check it out on Instagram. I shared it on YouTube. I was invited to a opening of a new gym in Messiah. Really nice. I mean, the gym culture here is incredible. I had no idea there was that much passion here for working out, the gym. Every town has one. Obviously, I've gone around to some different gyms, but if you go to the bigger cities, there's some really nice facilities here. Like the 2 facilities here in Diriyomo that have just opened up are just as nice as any gym in the U.S. The difference is they don't have air conditioning because the electricity here is so expensive for them relative. It's not expensive for me, or you. If you're in the U.S., but the electric bill is nothing compared to ours. But still, when the average wage in a month here is between $300 and $400, a $50-$60 electrical bill is a big deal, right? And so obviously, if you have a gym running air conditioning in a big gym, so it's nice though. Everything's like open air. So if you're in the quantum world like I am, you don't have to worry about artificial lights and things like that, except, in the evenings. But most people work out here in the evenings. They work out here in the mornings. Generally, most people don't work out in the afternoons. I'll try to go do a lot of my filming in the heat of the afternoon. So that's that. Couple updates here. I'm going to be rolling out a women's group here very shortly. I released a men's group about a month ago, and that's been very successful. And then I had a bunch of demand for a women's group. So we're going to be starting that here very soon. I'll be rolling that out. The best way to follow me right now is I'm trying to get all this stuff set up behind the scenes. And you can just opt into the email list at Vitality Brotherhood. You might not be a dude, but I'm trying to get everything set up on both sides. And it just takes a lot to get all the back end going, and then the price and the cost of domains and all that sort of stuff. So I'm trying to keep things as frugal as possible right now. So I appreciate your patience. So you can go to Vitality Brotherhood and get on the email list. You'll get a few emails promoting the Vitality Brotherhood, but then at least you'll be on the list. You can follow me. And so I have some clarity over what's going to be happening in Stillman Wellness. I'll be announcing that in the Stillman Wellness emails here in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you for joining us today. Do not let this hold you back. This is probably one of the number one things I see trip people up, and is comparing themselves to other people. And essentially in the modern world with social media, people are looking at other people, or they get overwhelmed with the task in front of them and they just don't even start. They look at this giant pile of dirt in front of them and they're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to do. Or they look too far, they're focused too much on the objective, like losing weight or whatever it is, or, whether it's like winning a state championship or whatever. You got to focus on what's in front of you and do what you need to do day to day. The process is what you want to focus on. And then also, you got to understand everybody's a little bit different. Like, I'm a hyper responder to weightlifting. Like, if I lift weights, I grow. Right? The tiniest bit of testosterone makes me grow. That's just how I roll. I've trained people and I've seen people that work really hard in the gym and they just don't grow very well. It's very hard for them, but they have other things. They can hit a golf ball, or they can, they're incredible swimmers, or they're triathletes, or they're good endurance athletes. Everybody kind of has their own deal. And it's up to you to figure out what goals are important to you and what you really want. I mean, obviously, if you're like trying out for Navy SEALs, or if you've got some sort of goal that has standards, you have to be able to perform those standards. But even so, the one of the coolest things, my women's group that I'm going to be starting, one of my clients that I still help her with her training after like, gosh, like 16 years now. Um, she's going to be helping me with the women's group. One of the reasons I was hesitant to start a women's group is uh, demoing exercises and all that sort of stuff kind of becomes a challenge when you're a 50-year-old dude trying to demonstrate stuff. She's going to help me with that. But we were talking the other day about my gym I had in Lexington, and we would have like, you know, some of my girls were strong. One in particular, she was pound for pound one of the strongest women in her age group in the country. And she's training at the same time as I've got a 65, 70-year-old lady who's her main goal is just to be able to walk up and down the stairs without pain. And so for me, I always would adjust my expectations and adjust essentially. Um, I would just I would get just as excited over a non-athlete learning a new skill, even more excited. Like if I have a kid who's not very gifted and he's working really hard and he's putting effort in, than the kid who's just naturally gifted and like you get a lot of these kids who everything just comes easy for them and everybody just kind of pats them on the back. I'm actually my coaching style with them, I tend to be a little harder on those guys. Um, and making sure they don't get too inflated with their ego because a lot of those guys that are just so gifted, they get praised so much. Then when they fail, they just completely are shattered. And then the guys on the other side of it, where they're literally not good at anything, I really focus on, hey, do the best you can. That's good. You've learned, you've improved. It might, I mean, some athletes, it takes them weeks to figure something out, and then they do. Other athletes figure it out in 5 minutes, right? So I have to have different expectations and different standards for different people, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I judge everybody individually. And I always used to tell my teams that when I work with them, I'm like, look, I'm here to help you figure out what you need to do to get better, right? I don't decide who plays. The coach decides who plays. I help you figure out what you need to do. Some of you need to eat more. Some of you need to eat less. Some of you need to sleep more. Some of you, you know, need to do more sprints. Some of you need to lift more weights. I'm here to help guide you through that. Right. And there were some guys that I worked with that were really, really good, but just hated the weight room. And so I'd be like, well, your job is to basically just stay out of everyone else's hair. That's kind of off to the side track though. But it's so easy with social media to look at like, somebody with six pack abs or like that's not an appropriate goal for everyone. Right. So you have to determine what is important to you and then focus on the things you need to do, the habits you need to build to get you as close to that mark as possible. And the funny thing is once you get close to that goal or you reach that goal, you might even be like, you know what? The juice isn't just worth the squeeze, or yeah, it is worth it, right? Some people will chase a certain goal for years and years and years, and then they get it, and they're just like, wow, this wasn't even worth it. And other people, they chase it for years, they get it, and they're like, wow, on to the next thing, you know? So you have to focus on what's most important to you and doing the things that make you basically be content. Because most people are looking at everyone else. They're like, oh my gosh, I got to look like this guy, or I got to do this, or I got to be ripped, or I got to be that. If you're happy where you are and your health is in order and you got great blood markers, run your race. Run your race. Don't get so worked up about what everyone else is doing on Instagram. And I got news for you. These people that look perfect on Instagram are usually not. Right. There's usually a lot more going on behind the scenes than you think. Right. Particularly people that have what you'd say the perfect life, the perfect body. There's usually things going on that are beyond comprehension in some instances. Like I've been around some of the most beautiful people in the world, and many of them do not look like that off camera, you know? Some of them do, some of them don't. I would say Cindy Crawford is probably the most beautiful, most naturally beautiful woman I've ever seen in person. She stayed at our hotel in Aspen, and I saw her at like 3:30 in the morning. She had just gotten done. She had a sick kid, and I had to bring some stuff up to her room. And 3 o'clock in the morning, she hadn't slept, and I was just like, "Wow, this woman, no makeup, nothing." She got drool down the front of her shirt and stuff, and I'm just like, "Wow, this woman is just stunning." So a lot of the stuff you see on Instagram is those people's best foot forward, the Photoshop. You see, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he goes through and like looks at all these influencers that are selling all these programs, and they're all like, they're sucking their waists in, they're making their hips bigger, and you can see the walls bending in the background. So there's a lot of people that are basically, selling something that isn't even real, so to speak. So a few things for you to worry about. One, focus on yourself, stay present, figure out what's most important to you, whether it's your health, the way you look, and focus on the process. Figure out the habits you need to build to basically get you closer to that goal, and focus on that as opposed to focusing on the goal. And don't be overwhelmed with, I want to win the Super Bowl. You don't like think about that. You think about all the things you need to do today in practice. Like Bill Belichick would say, do your job, right? Show up, do your work, and let the results. I had a football coach that would say that one play at a time. What's my job on this play? Do the play. Don't think about the entire game. Don't think about the scoreboard. And 98% of the time, you do your job, you focus on one play at a time, and the scoreboard takes care of itself. And it's the same thing for life in general as well, whether it's fitness or work or just day to day. You do the best you can with what you got. You maximize your strengths, and you find ways to work around your weaknesses or find people to help you with your weaknesses. And if you have an overwhelming problem, a big pile of dirt, you go out every day and you look at that big pile of dirt. And some days it's like John Walborn talks about this with NFL training camp. You don't think about the whole training camp. And this goes for like Navy SEAL boot camp, or, this could go for law school. This could be anything. One day you shovel 3 scoops of dirt. The next day it's a teaspoon. You do the best you can. You shovel as much dirt as you can each day. But you're moving dirt, and eventually that pile becomes manageable. Right. And most people are just like, there's no way I could ever be like that. There's no way I could ever attain this. And they don't even start, or they don't even try. So don't let other people's expectations for what you should look like or what your life should be, or, whatever. Don't let other people influence you into being something that you don't want to be. Not everybody needs to be a power lifter, or not everyone needs to be like, super athletic. Everybody has skill sets that they're good at. They're, some people are really smart intellectually, some people are physically gifted, other people are not. Be the best version of you. Obviously, you want to do as many of the basic things you can to be the healthiest version of you possible. But stop comparing yourself to other people, because that's how you get yourself in trouble, right? You do the best you can, make a good effort, figure out what's important to you. And those people tend to be the most content. When I have somebody that comes to me that has realistic expectations, they're 75 years old, and they come to me and they say, look, I just want to move better and feel better. It's not like, I want to, and some people, at 75 can have outrageous goals, like climb Mount Everest or like run a 100-meter sprint. And that's totally fine too. But, the 75-year-old who wants to like do a triathlon, which is fine if they have the skill set, is it worth it for them for what they're going to have to do that? My point is the 75-year-old that wants to do a triathlon is like glorified, whereas the 75-year-old who just wants to play on the ground with his grandchildren is kind of like, oh, that's a lame goal. No, it's not. That goal is just as important as the triathlon, the triathlete, the 75-year-old who's in a lot of pain that wants to play with his grandkids. That goal is just as important as the 75-year-old who wants to do a triathlete, be a triathlete or do triathlon. I mean, it's not celebrated as much, but it's just as important to that person anyways. And so, a lot of people in the fitness world would dismiss that. Well, I don't want to work with somebody whose main goal is, you know, just to get on the ground and play with their grandkids. They'd be like, oh, this is a waste of my time. No, I get, honestly, I get just as excited about, or even more excited about that than I do the 75-year-old who wants to do a triathlon. That's just me. And that's kind of how I approach things. I approach each person as an individual based on their gifts and talents, and I judge them accordingly. And I'm happy to teach or help people in any way they can, regardless of their ability, as long as they're willing to show up and do the best they can. So that's my thoughts on that. Just overall, focus on yourself, focus on what you need to do. Like for me, like I'm naturally good at lifting things. I'm naturally good at powerful things, short sprints. I benefit from things like flowing, Tai Chi, but obviously I'm not going to be like really good at it. But I need to do enough of it to stay healthy. Obviously, running marathons or endurance sports is not going to be favorable to me, but I need to do enough of that to stay healthy. Right. And doing more, getting stronger at almost 50 now is not going to help me get any better. If anything, it's going to cost me years off my life. So every person needs to do a self-assessment of themselves and what they need to achieve their goal. And for me right now, my goal is to look better, feel better, move better. So, I'm not worried about 700-pound squats. I'm not worried about benching 405 or 500. I'm not worried about doing heavy deadlifts. Those things that's done and gone. That season is over. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to hit the heavy bag every day. I'm going to get in the pool and run in the pool. I'm going to lift weights a couple times a week. It's going to be big movements, rows, presses, lunges. I'm not going to load my spine too much because that's where I'm at. And that's what I need for me to get what I want, which is important to me. And that changes. I remember when I was in my, late 20s, early 30s, and a guy came into the gym who's about my age now, who had been a power lifter for a long time. And he just warmed up on the squat. And I remember he squatted a lot of weight, raw, maybe close to 800 pounds. And he just came in and warmed up and went home. And I was just like, I asked him, like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, man, those days are done, man. I just come on, I warm up, maybe do 185, 225, and I'm done and I remember in my head thinking, dude, that's just so lame. Like, that's like, why would you do that? Like, I couldn't even comprehend it in my brain, but now I do. I'm like, wow, yeah, he was smart. And that's right. I don't need to be loading the hell out of my back. I don't need to be any more compressed than I already am. Right. So there's my little rant. Figure out what works best for you. Focus on the basics, focus on running your own race, and don't look at other people and get frustrated. It's just not going to end well for most people. So let me check Instagram here and make sure that I don't have any questions. Thanks for tuning in on Sunday. Sorry I was a little bit late. I'm looking forward to getting into a rhythm. Basically, I'll have my men's group, my women's group, roll in the women's group. I probably intend to roll out in the next week or so. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. And then I'm going to get on some sort of live schedule and focus on getting in a routine again and figuring out what's best for me and what's best for you. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Run over to Vitality Brotherhood. Get on the email list so I can keep track of you and you can keep track of me. And have yourself a great weekend. Just remember to get outside today, no matter where you are. If you're in the cold north right now, just take a brisk little walk for a few minutes. It's going to help you out so much. Take care. We'll see you again soon.